One of the things we wanted to accomplish through this project is we really wanted a fluid supply chain. I didn't want to end up with needs out in the stores that I didn't have enough inventory in the DC to service. So it was important that the same system that was controlling the parameters for my stores was also telling me how much to order into the DC. I did not want to end up with the mismatch as we went along, which is ultimately what we had before we started down this path. And the only thing I would note probably about our rollout is we were too conservative. It's funny because as we began this project and we did a couple client reference calls, one of the client references said, I asked them the question, what would you have done differently during your rollout? And they said, we would have gone faster, we were too conservative. And I kind of shook my head and I said, okay, yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Well, as we got done, I ended up with the same thing. I would have definitely gone faster because the sales results and the results that we've seen in our business, as Tony mentioned up front, have been phenomenal. A couple additional benefits that I want to talk about is we've put this system in place that have been very important for us. The first piece is around forecasting. One of the very important pieces that we have is the vendor purchase forecast. Too often retailers will provide out to their vendor partners a sales forecast and expect them to be able to understand, okay, based on this sales, this is how much the retailer is actually going to order. With a vendor purchase forecast, we're looking forward into what's going to happen in the future, as well as our current inventory position, and we're letting our vendors know by SKU each month, by week, how much we're going to order from them. And what this does is it also links back into our inbound DC labor planning. So the last thing I want to have happen is have our vendors geared up to get us product, get it to the barn, but not be able to get it in the door and out to our stores. Our finance guys also love the fact that once I have these integrated forecasts, I'm able to provide much better cash flow planning and actually tell them what I'm going to spend in terms of inventory. So they certainly appreciate that. We've also gotten a number of vendor performance tools such as lost sales and dynamic lead time calculations, and I'll talk a little bit about lead time here in a bit. But around the lost sales, I spent a lot of time sitting in front of vendor sales reps from our different vendors, and you go into the conversations and they're most interested in presenting new SKUs and talking about the newest trends and the promotions and so forth. And I like to talk about on-time shipments and fill rates, and they start to get awfully bored, and I see them zoning out. We don't talk about that stuff anymore. We do, but we start with lost sales because it's really the WIFM. It's what's in it for them. When I can sit in front of a vendor rep and talk about, if you had shipped me on time and you had shipped me complete, we believe we would have driven incremental sales of X hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you would have sold that to us, it really begins to get their attention. They begin thinking about what is in it for them, thinking about their own personal metrics and so forth, and we've seen a number of vendors take this information, be able to go back and really get their team geared up. We have weekly team meetings with our internal resources and our 4R team where we talk about our progress tracking. We always have projects that we're tracking through and holding each other accountable for, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to leverage 4R's knowledge. So I often ask them, I have this challenge or I have this problem, what have you done with some of your other clients, or what do you see your other clients doing? So it's a great opportunity for me to be able to leverage their knowledge base with some of their other clients to drive success in our business. They are really an integrated part of my team, so we often review business results and talk about our future team goals. And they do a great job of listening to the customer, so they listen to what we say and what is important to us. They always make sure that they're providing solutions and thoughts that can help us get to our goals. And as I mentioned, they really have become an integrated part of our team, which is very important because as you head down this path and you do change your inventory systems, the next component you really have to focus on is the people and the processes. So as we began talking with 4R and started down the pilot, we began thinking about our inventory team organizational alignment. And probably similar to a lot of you out there, we had buyers and we had allocators. Buyers bought product into the DC, and allocators allocated product from the DC out to the store. And we weren't very well in stock. We had a lot of holes out in the store. So we had the blame game. The allocator said, I allocate 100% perfect all the time, but the product just isn't in the DC to allocate out. And the buyer said, we always buy the right amount of product, but the allocators just never allocate it correctly, and that's why we're out of stock. So I did some analysis around that and basically found that it was a 50-50 split. Of our out of stocks, about half of it was because we didn't have the right inventory in the DC, and about half of it was because we weren't allocating it right out to the stores. So our challenge was to create a structure which allowed the team to be successful while making sure that accountability in the business was clear. In addition, with putting in a new system, that's going to have a lot of impact on the inventory team and the organization as a whole. So we had a number of processes that were going to change. Essentially, the store planner position as it had existed previously was going to go away. The way that went was stores would call and say, hey, I need extra product, and the store planner would look to just push inventory out. Well, now we had a system that was going to be doing that for us. And the vendor ordering process was going to get reduced from 8 hours a day to 15 to 30 minutes. So we were going to have a pretty significant reduction in what the buyers were doing on their end. In addition, the conversations with the store ops group were going to change dramatically. So it wasn't one about just pushing inventory out. It was going to be more about education and helping the DMs, the store managers, and the regional directors understand why they were out of stock and what they could do to influence that. And it was just going to take some time to build trust within the team. So what we ultimately ended up doing was we created an inventory manager role. And the purpose of this role was to create accountability for a set of products throughout the entire supply chain. So each of the inventory managers got a set of products that they were responsible for. And if we had an out of stock somewhere in the chain, you can go back to that one person who's responsible all the way from the vendor ordering process out to the stores to understand where that product's at. We also refocused the team on vendor performance and business process improvement. New item introduction, vendor fill rates, on-time shipments, vendor lead time reductions. The conversations became a lot more complex, and they were a lot more focused on vendor performance and supply chain process improvement. These are the things that a system can't do for you that you need people to drive within the business. So the next piece that Tony referenced a little bit in the beginning of the presentation was making sure that we had business alignment. In the supply chain in our organizations, inventory, distribution, and transportation, and we needed to make sure that we were aligned on goals of service and speed. Our goal is to have the product on the shelf for the customer when they want it and to get it there fast. In support of this, we established a supply chain PMO, or project management office. And what that is each week we review our projects, we talk about what's going on, and we make sure that those projects are related or driving service and speed, which are our goals. Specifically, the DC team is looked to reduce their work in process and really get product that we allocate down to them out to the stores faster. And they've done this by really doing a nice job of better aligning their labor schedules with the amount of volume that we're bringing into them. The transportation team has also adjusted their network to drive better service by making sure that we have the right strategic partners in place to get product out to our stores. And we've established a receiving window for the stores so that the store teams can be prepared to receive that product and get it out to the shelf quickly. The last piece, which Tony also focused a lot on and has been our biggest proponent at the Vitamin Shoppe of making sure it happens, is inventory accuracy. It's real simple. Bad data in, bad data out. If I'm sitting in front of my computer screen in New Jersey looking at a store SKU in California and I see 9 on hand, but the store physically has 0 on hand out in California, there's nothing that I can do to help that store out. I'm sitting there looking at 9 and I think things are great, but the store manager doesn't feel very good about that at all, looking at his or her zeros. So to drive some of the accuracy, we developed a zero scan process. Each week the stores go around and they scan a tag for all the items that have 0. If the system says that they have anything other than zero, to adjust the inventory down to zero so that I then know that they do have zero on hand and I begin to replenish them. As a result of this, we've been able to drive inventory accuracy up by over 20% in the last 3 years. And this year, as the physicals are starting to come back, we're seeing inventory accuracy at greater than 90% right now. In support of this, our DC team has improved their picking accuracy to 99.8%, but they continue to focus on driving the 0.2 even tighter, because as you think about 0.2% over all the units we ship, that injects a lot of inventory inaccuracy into the supply chain. So what does all this mean for us, and what has it done? Store out of stocks and direct back order rates have significantly improved, and that was actually off of a slightly higher base than Tony mentioned originally. We're almost to Tony's definition of success for store in stocks, and our direct back order rate is actually 5 times lower than the number that Tony quoted initially, all while driving our company inventory turnover up 10%. And we continue to have a focus on driving inventory turn for the company. We've also done this while supporting a growth in assortment, because one of our brand strategies is to have a broad assortment for our customers. Around the inventory manager performance, the vendor to DC PO shortages have decreased by 40% in the last 18 months, and on-time shipments have more than doubled. So that's what the focus of the inventory managers have been on, is driving performance there. And they've done that while moving the vendor lead times down almost 50% since we started focusing on that. So we're getting better fill rates and better on-time shipments from our vendors and getting them faster. What this has allowed us to do is significantly improve the DC in stock while reducing the inventory by over 30%. So it's great asset utilization of our DC. And on the back end, our DC to store lead times have decreased by over a full day, or over 10%. So we've been very happy with the results we've seen. I know throughout the conference there's been a lot of discussion about social media and marketing and demand creation, customer acquisition, customer retention, and so forth. Our chief marketing officer often reminds me, although not nearly as often as he used to, that the hardest part of his job is creating demand. And it's really a shame if we create that demand and we can't service it because we don't have the product in stock. So that's what we've been focused on the last couple of years, and we believe that's been one of the biggest drivers of our results at the Vitamin Shoppe. All right? Thank you.